This is Inner View, an inside look at the people whose music has changed our lives. Tonight's interview is brought to you by the Air Force Reserve. It's a great way to serve. Marantz high-fidelity home stereos, Universal Pictures presenting their new release, Continental Divide, and Circus Magazine.
Where do Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, Rush, AC/DC, Blondie, and Rolling Stones come together? In Circus, the rock and roll magazine. See fantastic...
Jim Ladd and Inner View.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to part one of a very special two-part interview of the Grateful Dead. And what you're about to hear is the culmination of three different conversations recorded in Los Angeles and San Francisco. First, we met with Bob Weir during an afternoon at my house in L.A. Then, at about 3 in the morning, we started again, this time with both Bob Weir and Jerry Garcia, and we did this one at their hotel room for a session that lasted well past dawn. Finally, about 3 weeks later, Interview went to San Francisco and taped a third conversation, this time with Garcia alone. The result of all this is the show that you're about to hear. Now, part one will deal with the Dead's acoustic work, and next week we'll bring you part two, the Electric Dead. I'm Jim Ladd. Welcome to part one of a very special two-part interview of the Grateful Dead.
In the timbers of Canario, the wolves are running around. The winter was so hard and cold, frost 10 feet beneath the ground. Don't murder me, I beg you, you don't murder me. Please don't murder me. I sat down to my supper, 'twas a bottle of red whiskey. I said my prayers and went to bed, that's the last they saw of me. Don't murder me, I beg you, you don't murder me. Please don't murder me. When I awoke, the dying woman, 600 pounds of sin, was grinning at my window. All I said was, come on in, don't murder me. Baby, you don't murder me. Please don't murder me. The wolf came in, I got my car. We sat down for a game. I cut my deck to the Queen of Spades, but the cards were all the same. Don't murder me, I beg you, you don't murder me. Please don't murder me. In the backwash of Canario, the black and bloody mine, the dire wolf collects his due on a bar, sing round the fire. Don't murder me, I beg you, you don't murder me. Please don't murder me. Don't murder me, I beg you, don't murder me. Please don't murder me.
The Grateful Dead's latest album is actually a 4-record set released at 2 different times. Both Volume 2, The Electric Dead, and Volume 1, The Acoustic Dead, which we will talk about tonight, were recorded as a response to requests from Deadheads around the world. Bob Weir.
The whole impetus behind the project was sort of a response to fan mail, essentially. They wrote in wanting to hear a whole bunch of old tunes and all that kind of stuff. Why don't you guys do this again? Because we've been hearing you do it in concert and it's different now. And after a few years of that, we decided it probably was about time to do that.
This next member is a drummer's choice.
Jerry Garcia.
We really went on the trip of live recording the band, of live recording the whole environment, the whole experience, yeah. So the applause in this case is so well recorded that it's like part of the music.
The way it was recorded was we hung a bunch of stereo microphone clusters in various parts of the room, and then Tom aligned them with the sound coming from on stage because, you know, it takes a while for the sound to reach out into the room, and we had to bring it back into present time. We used that instead of echo. We used the room ambience, and so what you're hearing is the room. We use no overdubbing, no echo,
we didn't touch it.
nothing.
We didn't add anything to this. This is like what you're hearing is purely what happened live. It hasn't been screwed with in the studio at all.
I think it's just about
and
no vocal
overdubs.
overdubs.
Almost no equalization.
You're kidding, really?
No, I'm not
Nothing.
kidding. That's the way it was recorded. It's a remarkable process. You know, it gives it a three-dimensionality that is uncanny. It really does.
For what it's worth, it's just about the only intact live record that's been put out in years, at least in the rock and roll world.
Untouched. You know, it's actually the superimposed, the best of both worlds. The close mic sound of being right on stage, you know, and the thing of being in the room and the way what the room does, those things superimposed on each other, you know, in various relationships, and it's pretty much like being there.
When I'm out back up, there's a reason why. Back up was even do things on the slide. Look for your in it, you'll be good and hot. She never even put a stew bone in the pot. She's on the road again. Sure as it falls, not your bone. He's been on the road again. She's on the road again. Sure as it falls. Friend come by, said looking for his hat. Wants to know where's your husband's at. I don't know, he's on the way to the pen. Come on, pretty mama, let's get on the road again. On the road again. Sure as it falls, not your bone. He's been on the road again. He's on the road again. Sure as it falls.
We recorded, I think, 3 weeks in San Francisco and 2 weeks in New York. The idea being to make a two-record set, one side of acoustic material and 3 sides of electric material. And as we were going through selecting the acoustic material and mixing it down, it became apparent that there was more than we could get on one side, more than we could get on 2 sides. Then necessity or desperation being the mother of invention, we came up with the idea of doing two record sets.
When you did the recordings from these concerts, let's say just pick a concert now that this came from, what was that structure like? Was that like a half-hour acoustic set first, or was it all mixed up in between?
No, it was about an hour of acoustic, 45 minutes to an hour of acoustic generally, and then an electric show.
An infinite amount of time for the...
Yeah, the whole thing was about 5 hours.
I went to my house, my front door was locked. Went around the window, while my window was locked. Jumped right back, I shook my head. Big old rounder in my folding bed. Shot me the window, broke the glass. Damn, I seen that little rounder run so fast. He's on the road again. Sure as it falls, not your bone. He's been on the road again. He's on the road again. Sure as it falls. Natural Born Easy.
I'm Jim Ladd. We'll be back with Bob Weir, Jerry Garcia, in part one of our two-part special interview of the Grateful Dead in just a moment.
7 and back with Jim Ladd and some more Dead.
We're back now with our interview of the Grateful Dead, and we're going to begin with Bob Weir's love of country music, which dates back to the Dead's jug band days when they were known as the Warlocks.
You know, this love that you obviously have for country music, and you did the races on this album.
Uh-huh. Well, it's not George Jones, but it was just sort of a fun song to do. We did it not a whole lot. We only did it like 2 or 3 times, I think. Maybe more. I don't remember all that well. But anyway, we didn't do it all that often, but we got this one, that one nice recorded performance of it, so we decided to include it on the record.
Yeah, there's a whole set of Bob Weir stuff that can be done with Mama Tried and
Right.
Me and My Uncle and this, you know, that
The country facet of...
yeah, the country facet, yeah.
I even rode a mechanical bull the other day for the second time. I rode one a long time ago. This time it dumped me, though. I got dusted.
I feel tears welling up from down deep inside, like my heart's got a big break. And it's never loneliness, sharp and painful, and I may never shake. You might think that I'm taking heart since you broke me off with a call. You might wait till then I'll hide in sorrow when I'm under and down and ball. Now the race is on and here comes pride at the backstretch. Heartaches are going to the inside. My tears are holding back, trying not to fall. My heart's out of the running, too low to scratch for another sake. The race is on and it looks like heartaches, and the winner loses all. One day I ventured in love, never once suspecting what the final results would be. Now I live in fear, waking up each morning and finding that you're gone from me. There's a aching pain in my heart for the name of the one that I hated to face. Somebody else came out to win her, and I came out in second place. Now the race is on, and here comes pride of the backstretch. Heartaches are going to the inside. My tears are holding back, trying not to fall. My heart's out of the running, too low to stretch for another seat. The race is on, and it looks like heartaches, and the winner loses all. Now the race is on, and here comes pride up the backstretch. Heartaches are going to the inside. My tears are holding back, trying not to fall. My heart's out of the running, too low to scratch for another sake. Race is on, and it looks like heartaches, and the winner loses all.
How many, let's say, friendly discussions have you two had about, you know, taking the Grateful Dead totally into country western land with Weir here? I mean,
We've never even discussed it.
Oh, really?
I don't think so. Have we ever discussed it? No. I mean,
is it true that you have a picture of Marty Robbins over the bed? I mean, you know, really, this is just a rumor.
Like I say, we're not particularly mindful of current trends or anything like that.
No, I realized that you were doing this before John Travolta, but
from early on, we had a little flavor of that little country western, just because we used to we went and saw Buck Owens a couple of times, and the Buckaroos, the old band, when it was a hot rock and roll, almost a rock and roll band. And it was cool. They played cool, you know. They had a cool way of playing that Fender sound, you know, that Telecaster sound and all that. And
they taught us a whole lot about being an electric rock and roll band.
They did. We actually learned from them.
Buck Owens and the Buckaroos?
That's right. And they had a good band, man.
Right at the time we were turning into an electric band from an acoustic band, from the jug band to a rock and roll band.
Right.
We went and heard those guys and the Beatles and a few other electric bands, and that sort of changed our minds about how we were going to play.
I'd rather be in some dark hollow where the sun don't ever shine than to be in some big city in a small room with a girl on my mind. So blow your whistle, freight train, take me far on down the track. I'm going away, I'm leaving today. Well, I'm going, but I ain't coming back. I'd rather be in some dark hollow where the sun don't ever shine than to see where another man's darling and to know you won't never be mine. So blow the whistle, freight train, make me far track. I'm going away, I'm leaving today. Well, I'm going, but I ain't coming back. I'm going away, I'm leaving today. Well, I'm going, but I ain't coming back.
Jerry Garcia.
I'm not a comfortable person as a singer, you know what I mean? It's something that I'm just starting to get used to, really, in a way.
Really?
Yeah.
Why is that, man?
Well, it's because when the Grateful Dead started, really, the only real singer we had was Pigpen. And Weir and I kind of became singers kind of by default, you know, just kind of like the way we became composers, really, or writers, is kind of by default. I mean, it was just like, because there's always been those demands, you know, for a band, you got to have your own material, you know, and it's nice if everybody sings. And we all sort of became singers because we felt you ought to have a lot of singers in the band, if possible, you know.
Everybody else is doing it, we better.
That's right. But back in the days when I was a folkie, you know, and a banjo picker and stuff like that, I certainly never thought of myself as a singer, and I never worked at it. I never was very comfortable at it, and I haven't been, like I say, up until about the last couple of years. I'm starting to get some sensibility, I guess, about what it means to be a singer aesthetically. You know, what that is. It's kind of like being an actor, I think. Mm-hmm. And boy, it's hard for me. It's not an easy thing. It's not something that comes real natural to me.
Also, in your kind of the kind of music that the Grateful Dead is known for, the way it's sung always seems so much more important than are you hitting every note exact. It's not a technical thing at all. It's so much feeling, so much interpretive of the lyrics.
Yeah, well, that's the only way I know how to do. You know, I mean, that's why it's really important that the lyrics communicate to me in some way. Because boy, nothing sounds more false than for me to be singing something about when I don't have some grasp of the character or the notion that the song is about, you know what I mean? And sometimes it's all happening on an intuitive level. In other words, it's not something I sit around and intellectualize about, really. I can't do it that way. It's one of those things that it's It's a feeling thing, and if there's something about the lyric that it can even be one little line or even one word sometimes, just the way a word sounds, you know, it can be like that can be enough to allow me to become something of that song. You know, it's a tough thing to explain.
So does the song have to really hit you first before you can sing it?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it has to speak to me emotionally somehow. And that doesn't mean that it has to say something about my life or my attitudes or anything like that. It's one of those things where there's something about it has to speak to some part of me. It's intuitive.
Look out of any window, any morning, any evening, any day. Maybe the sun is shining, birds are winging, no rain is falling from a heavy sky. What do you want me to do for you, to see you through? For this is all a dream we dreamed one afternoon long ago. Walk out of any doorway, feel your way like the day before. Maybe you'll find direction around some corner where it's been waiting to meet you. What do you want me to do? To watch for you while you're sleeping? Then please don't be surprised when you find me dreaming too. Walk into splintered sunlight, inch your way through dead dreams to another land. Maybe you're tired and broken, your tongue is twisted with words half spoken and thoughts unclear. What do you want me to do for you, to see you through? A box of rain will ease the pain and love to see you through. Just a box of rain, wind and water. Believe it if you need it. If you don't, just pass it on. Sun and shower, wind and rain, in and out the window like a moth before a flame. And it's just a box of rain. I don't know who put it there. Believe it if you need it, or leave it if you dare. And it's just a box of rain, or a ribbon for your hair. Such a long, long time to be gone, and a short time to be there.
return with Bob Weir and Jerry Garcia when our interview, The Grateful Dead, continues. Glad, and we're back again with our interview of The Grateful Dead. Let's turn now, Bob, to the new Republican administration. I'd like to get your views on that. You know, are we going to get a U.S. Blues Part 2 or?
Oh, you always get some amount of completely twisted, sideways social commentary from us, but it is not to be taken seriously because we don't. Pretty much speaking for everybody in the band, we never have been very mindful of political trends or social trends or anything. I mean, it's worthy of commentary, but just as conversation. It doesn't seem to affect us that much.
So you weren't like surprised or unnerved or anything that?
No, in fact, kind of welcomed it. I like the whole idea of revolution, and that was sort of a revolution in and of itself. Mm-hmm. It was a big turnaround, and I think everybody's sort of forced to view things in a new light, and I think that keeps us flexible, keeps us loose as a society, and I like that. I welcome it, as long as it doesn't stick around for too long in any given place. For instance, I'm an anarchist. I just don't have time to get involved in governmental processes and stuff like that. But I do sympathize with environmentalists and people like that. Mm-hmm. And so I'll give a lot of money to people who are involved in those kind of organizations because they seem to have a taste for working with and through government for those kind of ends. And I don't. I have no stomach for it whatsoever. But if there are people around who have that proclivity, then I'll support stuff that I think's worthwhile, like keeping the planet alive and stuff like that.
Sugar magnolia, blossoms blooming, that's all empty and I don't care. So my baby down by the river, knew she'd have to come up soon for air. Sweet blossom, come on. Under the willow, we can have high times if you look back. We can discover the wonders of nature, rolling in the rushes down by the riverside. She's got everything delightful, she's got everything I need. Takes the wheel when I'm seeing double, pays my ticket when I speak. She comes skimming through rays of violet. She can wait in a drop of dew. She don't come and I don't follow. Waits backstage while I sing to you. But she can dance a Cajun rhythm, jump like a Willis in four-wheel drive. She's a summer love in the spring, fall, and winter. She can make happy any man alive. Sugar magnolia, ringing that bluebird, caught up in sunlight, going out singing or walking in the sunshine. Come on, honey, come along with me. She's got everything delightful, she's got everything I need. A breeze in the pines in the summer night, moonlight, crazy in the sunlight, yes indeed. But sometimes when the cuckoo's crying, when the moon is halfway down, sometimes when the night is dying, I'll take me out and I'll wander around. Sunshine daydream, walking in the tall trees, going where the wind goes, blooming like a red rose, breathing more freely, light out singing, I walk in the morning.
As most people know, the Grateful Dead first came to national attention in the mid-60s, a time of extraordinary political involvement for America's youth. Yet, the Grateful Dead somehow managed to become, and remain, one of the most articulate voices of a generation, without ever becoming aligned with a political movement of any kind, a position Jerry Garcia likes and wants to maintain.
Fighting about war is just like fighting about anything. It's fighting about peace, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
A war is a war, a fight is a fight.
Absolutely.
And a struggle is a struggle. And if you put yourself in that position, you're going to have to deal with it. I mean, you are putting yourself up there, you're playing the game, you're going to have to pay the dues. And so as far as I was concerned, it was always, that's why we never wrote any anti-war songs, you know what I mean? It's because, like, why participate on any level? Why give war any energy, you know? Any energy you give it glamorizes it. Any energy you give it, even to say that it's a bad trip, glamorizes
Make
it.
somebody else dig in their feet a little further.
Yeah, when you say peace, you're saying war. See? And I mean, I think that's what Weir means by that. In other
Very
words,
interesting point.
Yeah, because I saw it happen time and again back in those Vietnam days, where a guy who would be up there raving for peace and unity and end the war, and it was basically a guy up there saying, join the army and go and fight, you know, go kill the Japs. You know
Join
what
our
I mean?
army and kill
It's
their
exactly
army,
the
yeah.
same kind of talk, you know. It's the same tone of voice, the same anger, the same, you know.
If you truly have a better idea, you'll probably exclude the possibility of confrontation.
Yeah, right. If it's that good of if it's a good idea, it'll transcend the whole, it'll take a quantum jump over the whole argument, you know what I mean? In other words, you'll come up with a better thing to do than war.
Went to see the captain, strangest I could find. Laid my proposition down, laid it on the line. I won't slave for beggars' pay, likewise gold and jewels, but I would slave to learn the way, sink your ship of fools, ship of fools, on a cruel sea, ship of fools, sail away from me. It was later than I thought when I first believed you. Now I cannot share your laughter, ship of fools. Saw your first ship sink and drown from rocking up the boat, and all that could not sink or swim was just left there to float. I won't leave you drifting down, but whoa, it makes me wild. With 30 years upon my head, to have you call me child, ship of fools, on a cool sea, ship of fools, sail away from me. It was later than I thought when I first believed you. Now I cannot share your...
We're back now with the conclusion of part one of our interview, The Grateful Dead. And we're going to begin this last segment tonight with Bob Weir and his feelings about one of the most appreciated aspects of the Dead's music, the spontaneity and the improvisation of their live performances. Something that has become rare on a rock and roll stage.
there's some magical quality about something new happening when everything clicks, and if you don't go for it, you're just completely overlooking the most wonderful part of live performance.
The most wonderful part was
Yeah.
experimentation.
Well, when you experiment and when it works, and we have pretty fair averages with that. But practice makes perfect. You can't just try it every now and again and expect it to happen right now and then go back to your regular set. You pretty much have to do it every night, and that way you sort of keep up on that sort of, I guess, approach. You keep loose.
Now, so there's like no Grateful Dead set list or anything when you walk on, right?
No.
It's just totally
whatever seems right.
Instant vote. And
Yeah.
listen. Does everybody look to you for the next song, or look to Garcia, or look to...
It's pretty much up to me when it's my turn to sing. We sort of stagger the lead vocals between Garcia and me to make sure that nobody burns their throat out. And when it's my turn to sing, though I'll take, I'm completely open to suggestions, but I'll generally take a notion as to what I'd like to do and do it.
I have seen where the wolf is set by silver strand. I can tell by the mark he left you were in his dream. Ah, child of countless trees. Ah, child of boundless seas. What you are and what you're meant to be. Speaks his name, though you were born to be. Born to me, Cassidy. Lost now on the country miles in his Cadillac. I can tell by the way you smile when he's rolling back. Come wash the nighttime clean. Come grow the scorched ground green. Blow the horn and tap the tambourine. Close the gap with the dark is in between. You and me, Cassidy. Quick beats in an icy heart. I catch cold, draws a coffin car. There it goes, and now here she starts to hear her cry. Fly to the seabirds, scattered like lost words. Wheel to the storm and fly.
Sometimes I decide, I get a notion well in front of the next song, what I want to do next, and just start playing it, or even try to ease it out of the song before, and then when we get loose, when we get out there, then we start going in any direction that we can find, and at that point we listen real closely to each other and try to make new music happen. There's an element of drama there as well. I mean, will they make it, won't they make it? It's just like a sports event. And, it's not like the audience is uninvolved, because they really are. Because we relate most directly with them.
Very well know that your life proceeds by its own design. Nothing to tell now, let your words be yours, I'm done with mine. Very well know that your life proceeds by its own design. Nothing to tell now, let the words be yours, I'm done with mine.
unfortunate position of picking a acoustic Grateful Dead song. You included it on this album that would be my all-time favorite. I just want to thank you for writing Ripple.
Oh, thank you, man.
That song is, it's an amazing song. We'll sit here and try to describe
it was a
what
real
does
great
with it.
experience doing it, performing it for people. It was such a flash because people hadn't heard us really perform it very much. When we were performing acoustic, we didn't really perform very often. We didn't do it for a very long period of time, and we never did perform that song very much because it was sort of difficult for us to do. It used to be harder for us to do.
To get that little with the electric instruments, it's hard to do.
Yeah, you can't do it. It's not, so it's like such an acoustic. I mean, doing it was really a rush. I mean, it raised the bumps on good nights. It had the whole.
And it has that one nail in it. It has that chorus, which is "Ripple in still water where there is no pebble tossed, no wind to blow." That's a haiku poem, 17 syllables. It's a very, very strict form, and it's a good haiku poem. When you take a form that's that rigid and do something really good within it, it's going to have a lot of impact, even if you don't understand the form. It still has impact, and that's one reason that Ripple that's an enduring song.
Well, there's some songs that sort of help you along. They're sort of uplifting. And that song is lucky. I mean, we were lucky with that one. And Hunter, every once in a while he hits that something that's just a sentiment that's beautifully expressed, or an idea, a human idea that's beautifully expressed, and that song just flowed out. It actually came out of a guitar that Weir had. I picked it up and started playing it, and it's like that tune just wanted to come out, that little melody. It's as though it were always there.
My words get low with the gold of sunshine, and my tunes were played on the horn, on the strum. Would you hear my voice come through the music? Would you hold me near? As it were your own, it's a hand-me-down. The thoughts are broken, perhaps they're better left unsaid. I don't know, don't really care. Let there be songs to fill the air. That's Otis. Ripple in still warm where there is no pebble tossed, no wind to blow. Reach out your hand. If your cup is empty, if your cup is full, may it be again, would it be known? There is a fountain that was not made by the hands of men. There is a road, no simple highway between the dawn and the dark of night. And if you go, no one may follow. That path is for your steps alone. Ripple in still water where there is no pebble tossed, no wind to blow. You choose to lead, must follow. But if to guide you. If I knew the way, I would take you home.
Well, let me just say that it's now 5:30 in the morning in Southern California in a hotel on Sunset Boulevard, and I thank you both
In a
for being
relatively uninhabited section of the universe at present time.
here. Yeah. Thank you guys very much. I really enjoyed
Thank you.
this. I think
Yeah.
the listeners will too.
Well, I hope you enjoyed part one of our interview of the Grateful Dead, and that you'll be here next week, same time and same frequency, when our guests will again be Jerry Garcia and Bob Weir for the second half of our interview of the Grateful Dead, the Electric Dead. That's next week on Interview. I'm Jim Ladd.
Thanks a lot. See you in a little while.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the second half of our two-part special interview of the Grateful Dead with our guests Bob Weir and Jerry Garcia. Now, last week during part one, we focused on the live two-record album Reckoning and the Dead's acoustic work in general. Tonight, we'll concentrate on the Electric Dead and the just-released album called Dead Set. As Bob Weir stated at the beginning of last week's show,
The whole impetus behind the project was sort of a response to fan mail, essentially. They wrote in wanting to hear a whole bunch of old tunes and all that kind of stuff. Why don't you guys do this again? Because we've been hearing you do it in concert and it's different now. And after a few years of that, we decided it probably was about time to do that.
the Dead Set album is a collection of live performances of Grateful Dead songs that chronologically range from later Grateful Dead releases to a song that appeared on their very first album. And according to Garcia, it represents the Grateful Dead of the 80s.
That's kind of really what this record represents, the live record represents. It's kind of like, it's the 80s version of the Grateful Dead, you know what I mean? It's kind of like our ground floor repertoire. It's the tunes that we've actively been doing, and that you could expect to hear any of those tunes really at a Grateful Dead concert now, state of the art today.
I'm Jim Ladd. Welcome to the second half of our two-part special interview of the Grateful Dead.
I was born in the desert. I was raised in a lion's den. I was born in a desert. I was raised in a lion's den. Well, my number one occupation, stealing women from their other men.
As any Deadhead will testify, there is nothing like a Grateful Dead concert. The reason is the Dead's passion for improvisation. No two concerts are ever alike. The Dead don't even have a set list. It is this kind of musical experimentation and spontaneous exploration that keeps the audiences, as well as the band, feeling that each night is opening night. Bob Weir.
Well, the only reason we can do it again is because it's different. If we played the songs the same as we played them when we recorded them a long time ago, we'd be so bored with them that we'd be at each other's throats.
Yeah. And that's why I wonder about other musicians.
I can't understand how they
can do that. Yeah.
I've never been able to understand how they could do it.
They must not play as much as we do.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they'd have to be so bored.
But I mean, I'll tell you, there are working bands now, like there's some, that they're out 250, 300 days a year.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that work a
300
lot more days than we do, and they also have that thing of they have to repeat the same show night after night.
I'd rather go to jail.
Yeah, me too.
Feeling the old man in Texas, busted jail, I'm gone for good. Wanted man in Texas, busted jail, I'm gone for good. Well, the sheriff couldn't catch me, but this little girl sure wish she would. You know she wish she would.
the difference between live music and recorded music, you know? I mean, if all you're doing is a recreation of your recorded music, it's a little bit like...
Playing the record.
Yeah, it's a little bit like, what does that show the audience that they haven't seen before, you know? It's like, what I've always wanted to do anyway, when I go to hear somebody live, is to hear them be more than what their record is.
Right.
Be live, you know, stretch out.
Doctor call me crazy. Some says I am, some says I ain't. Hey, doctor call me crazy. Some says I am, some says I ain't. This fisherman call me sinner, but this little girl call me a saint. I was born in a desert. I was raised in a lion's den. I was born in a desert. I was raised in a lion's den. Well, my number one occupation, stealing millions from that other man. Do it again. You know, my number one occupation, stealing millions from that other man.
Let's talk for a minute about, if you don't mind, Keith and Donna.
Sure.
Okay. What caused the separation there?
Divergent musical directions, really. Keith was just sort of headed one direction, we were sort of headed another. And the time that he spent with us, it was sort of like ships crossing in the night. For a while we were in sync, and then it became apparent that that really wasn't where he lived, pretty much, and so it was sort of a all-around mutual decision that this has gone on long enough. Actually, at that point, we had been sort of at musical odds. Though, you know, there wasn't animosity or anything. It was just from listening back to the tapes, it was apparent that we had been at musical odds for a while, and so they went off, formed their own group, and were actually doing fairly well when Keith checked out.
I see. How's Donna doing?
She's okay.
Yeah?
She's put together another group. Last I heard, it was doing well. I haven't been able to keep up, but I haven't been home much.
Good. Well, we wish her well. How'd you decide on Brent?
He was introduced to me by John Messeri, who helped me put together my Heaven Help the Fool band. John Messeri is the drummer in that band. And he was a lot of fun to play with. And Garcia heard him one night, and when it became obvious that Keith wasn't fitting in, we were wondering, well, are we going to get another keyboard player? Phil can't sing anymore because he sort of blew his throat for good, or so it seems. And so we wanted another vocalist, and he could cut the high parts and played real good keyboard, so it seemed like a pretty natural progression. Us being, you know, students of natural order.
Oh, of course. Sure. I've read your books on the subject. It's fascinating. I would imagine it would be not the easiest band to fit into.
There's a whole lot that you have to learn. We play idiosyncratically. There are a lot of rhythmic feelings or harmonic realms that we explore that are pretty much characteristic to us and very nearly no one else, that we've just sort of developed over the years, and understanding and feeling them properly is a matter of luck and a whole bunch of other stuff, but the fact that he fits in as well as he does is pretty lucky.
I wanted to ask you about Passenger. Did you change the arrangement a great deal? I mean, now that Donna's not singing on it.
No, not a whole lot. Actually, Brent sings Donna's whole part.
Oh, I see.
So it's still a duet. It's a drive and duet. It's good, also a very good performance. That performance is hot as a pistol. It really is. It's probably the hottest thing on the record. And scorch it, you know.
Right.
It's just, you know. It's got what it needs, you know, what that tune needs, which is just a complete balls to the wall kind of roaring, knock down, drag out, rock and roll, high energy, you know, it doesn't let up for a second.
Make your ears bleed.
And Weir and Brent sing fabulously well on it. I mean, it's really in tune. It's just as tight as can be, really in tune.
One summer day.
We're going to be back with Jerry Garcia and Bob Weir and our interview, The Grateful Dead, right after this. Interview, The Grateful Dead. We're going to begin with Jerry Garcia and how they selected the songs that would go on the Dead Set album.
It's interesting, the songs that you chose for this record and the order in which they appear.
Let me tell you in advance, before you even ask me the question, let me tell you how that process is arrived at.
Okay.
First of all, my participation in this album has really been minimal, especially the electric one. The acoustic one I was involved in quite a lot more. And with the electric one, really, my function really was to listen through to all of the tapes and pick out the performances that I felt were the best. My criterion were basically that I wanted tunes that we haven't put out an awful lot, you know. And I wanted tunes that had really excellent performances, and the quality of the performances was like the first, foremost, leading, you know, that was the thing that I was mainly looking for. So these tunes appear on this album by virtue of the excellence of the performance, not because of any other aesthetic considerations.
So it has nothing to do with lyrical content of the tune?
No, it doesn't, and it also doesn't have to do with reflecting like what the order of tunes would be in a real concert.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean that there isn't some underlying, you know, tie-in. I mean, because there is that anyway through all of Grateful Dead material. You know, there are tie-ins there. So.
Well, it certainly seems like every song on record one, side 1 and 2, has to do with basically, generally, a theme of the gambler, outlaw guy on the road.
I mean, it certainly has been part of what our lyrical fascination has been. I think probably part of the reason that we're fascinated with that is that it parallels who we are in a way. We're sort of a little outside of, even in the music world, we're a little bit on the outside. We're kind of on the outs, You know, so the whole idea of the outsider or the outlaw and like that is something that we're comfortable with. And I know that I am, just as a singer, certainly. It's very easy for me to empathize with that character.
I'm a gambler, hereabouts, 10 good solid years. If I told you about all that went down in my burn on over here, just to show you don't ever know, watch each card you play it slow. Wait until that deal go down. Don't you let that deal go down.
I just want to say this one line here, which is, since you poured the wine for me and tightened up my shoes,
Yeah.
I hate to leave you there composing Lonesome Blues.
Yeah, it's a good line, isn't
God.
it? Yeah, Hunter is so good. That's one of those things that's like a very special gift, the thing of being able to come up with a line that's graceful and economical and says exactly what you would want it to say, you know, with no fat, you know what I mean? That's something that I envy so much. And Hunter is one of the guys that can do it.
You pulled the wine for me, tightened up my shoes. Hate to leave you sitting there composing lonesome blues. Just to show you don't ever know, watch each card you play it slow. Wait until that deal goes down. Don't you let that deal go down. No, no. It costs a lot to win, even not a lose. You and me better spend some time wondering what to choose. Sure you don't ever know, watch each card you play it slow. Wait until that deal goes down. Don't you let that deal go down. Wait until that deal goes down. Don't you let that deal go down. Wait until that deal goes down. Don't you let that deal go down. Wait until that deal goes down. Don't you let that deal go down. Don't you let that deal go down. Don't you let that deal go down.
This is no joke. I mean, you really do relate to that, take the chance and throw the dice, see what happens.
Sure do. Well, for the Grateful Dead, certainly that approach has certainly been the most fruitful. I mean, not that we've really experimented with any other approach, you know, but as far as the way our whole career has gone and everything like that, it has been really a matter of playing your hunches, you know, drawing to an inside straight, doing crazy things. And just in terms of luck, I think we've been incredibly lucky. So, you know, I don't feel bad about telling people to go ahead and trust that. I mean, if in the event that there's somebody who is out there actually listening to the lyrics in the sense of obeying them, you know what I mean? God forbid. You know, yeah, right. I certainly hope nothing like that is happening, but in the event that it is happening, you know, I feel good about saying go with that, you know. I mean, just because certainly worked for us.
Don't you let that deal go down. 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 Don't you let that deal go down.
Well, then, okay, side two, we begin with Candyman. And I really like this guy. He's really a rogue. I mean, you know, just out front.
And it's also part of me and Hunter's, Hunter and I have rewritten folk music, you know. That's been part of our process, have been to rewrite famous folk songs. Like, so Candyman is like a famous folk image, you know what I mean? It's all over the place. There's 3 or 4 Candyman tunes in the tradition. And, well, it's like our Casey Jones song, or like our Stega Lee song, you know what I mean? We like to go in there and muddy the water by writing current versions of those tunes, you know, and mostly because the characters are appealing. And that Candyman guy is a guy, everybody knows that guy. You know?
Yeah. Do you still see that many characters, or are you more isolated now?
You have to keep your eyes open, but they're out there. They're younger, you know. I mean, it's not that they're younger now, it's that we're older, so they're younger than we are. It used to be that they were the same age as us, you know, but now they're younger. But they're the same guys. I mean, the thing is that you have to go back a little bit and remember what it was like. But yeah, those guys are still out there. I mean, we run into the same kind of guys. We run into the same kind of people. And whatever it is they are, they provide a kind of a roomy persona for somebody to slip into and then to go and act out their fantasy, whatever it is, you know. Like the Candyman guy is like any number of dope dealers, you know, or just characters that are around, you know.
Pretty women with your cause the king in town. Come on, boys and roll those laughing bones. 7 cup, 11 points. I'll take your money home. Look out, the Candyman. Here he comes and he's gone again. Pretty lady ain't no friend till the Candyman comes around again.
The Little Red Rooster, this is Willie Dixon, Little Red Rooster? You didn't muddy the water on this one, huh?
No,
Okay.
This is just straight ahead. Actually, it's interesting how this tune came about. We never did rehearse this tune. We used to do this tune with Pigpen. Pigpen used to sing it. And then, of course, we hadn't done it for the longest time. And somewhere, I guess about a year or so ago, I think I mentioned to Bob before a show started, I said, hey, how about Little Red Rooster? He was trying to scratch up some tunes to do some. And I said, how about Little Red Rooster? And that night we did it completely cold, you know, without ever rehearsing it or anything. And Weir went ahead and sang it. One of the things that's nice about the performance on the record is Weir does a beautiful job vocally. And it's like he's starting to develop the kind of confidence that it takes and the kind of chops that it takes to be able to sing the blues, those kind of blues, and really be able to pull them off. That version of Little Red Rooster, he really drills it, you know, he really does a hell of a job. Yeah, he sings it good. And it's that's one of the things I really like about it. And that's one of the reasons it got chosen too, is because it's just an excellent vocal.
I'm a little red rooster, too lazy to crow for days. I'm a little red rooster, too lazy to crow for days. Keep everything in the barnyard upset in every way. begin to bark now, and the hounds begin to howl. Dogs begin to bark now, and the hounds begin to howl.
Our interview of the Dead will return in just a moment.
Do you have a Coca-Cola?
Yeah. Do you want one?
Sure.
Tough. Hold on here, man. Anybody else want something to drink?
The people who make up the Air Force Reserve.
We're back again with our interview of the Grateful Dead and our guests, Jerry Garcia and Bob Weir.
We talked before one time about estimated profit, about the guy that has seen the light and comes out to get the answer. Do you still see these people? Are they
All
still
the
happen?
time.
Yeah.
If you can't handle LSD, don't take it.
That's
For the love of God.
Yeah.
I get too many people climbing all over me who can't handle LSD. Put way too much importance on certain things that I've said or done or stuff that they've imagined or one thing or another. It's a big hassle to be a celebrity sometimes.
Yeah. When someone comes up to you and they got the blaze in the eye, do you find it best to take your time and try to talk to them for a moment or just motor?
Well, my first response is to at least listen for a while and try to evaluate and see if there's a possibility of two-way communication. And most often there isn't. Most often when somebody gets way the hell out there, no matter what you say, they rearrange it to fit the little scheme of things. And there's no way you can crack that. I guess we all do it to a certain extent, but, you know, people who take too much dope of one sort or another, been my experience that they get a little bit more subjective than your average guy.
My time coming any day. Don't worry about me, no. Been so long I felt this way. I'm in no hurry, no. Rainbows end down that highway where ocean breezes blow. My time coming, voices say, and they tell me where to go. Don't worry about me. Oh, no, don't worry about me, no. And I'm in no hurry. No, I know where to go. California, a prophet on the burning shore. California, I've been knocking on the golden door. Like an angel, standing in a shaft of light and rising up to paradise. I know I'm gonna shine. Now you've all been asleep, you would not believe me. And then voices telling me you will soon receive me. You're standing on the beach, the sea will part before me. And you will follow me, and we will rise to glory. Way up the middle of the air. And I'll call down thunder and speak the same.
kind of what Estimated Prophet was written about, wasn't it? The guy that obeys the lyrics. And...
Yeah, now that's like a cautionary tale, you know, that's like, listen to those voices some, but don't listen to them too much.
Yeah.
They lie, you know. That's the thing that we see a lot, is that's that guy who's standing backstage and says, hey, you know, I got this message from my radiator, you know, and, you know, or satellites that are, you know, orbiting the Earth.
The guy that runs up and says, I know what you meant in that line. And
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm here.
Right, I'm here, just like you told me to.
Right.
My time coming any day. Don't worry about me, no. Gonna be just like they say. Them voices tell me so. Seems so long I felt this way, and time sure passing slow. My time coming any day. Don't worry about me, no. Don't worry about me. No, no, don't worry about me, no. And I get no worry. Ah, no, no, don't worry about me, no. And I get no worry. Ah, no, no, don't worry about me, no. And I get no worry. Ah, no, 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 I get it down. Ah, no, 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 no.
Well, let's move right from Jesus and Gandhi to 42
Get out in left
teeth and a
field
jawbone, and
Yeah,
Alabama's trying for none.
Damn, right. Right.
What a segue.
Right.
This was an example to me of like, okay, the Grateful Dead decided to kick some ass.
Well, that's a little barroom brawl.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, it's kind of, you know, and it's neither about the state of Alabama or the state of mind of Alabama, nor is it about somebody named Alabama. It's fiction.
Fiction, okay.
Yeah. While that situation is a situation which people find themselves in, you know, and I can only relate to it because of that, you know. I mean, I could see myself being in that space, you know. For me, it's happening in the same sort of psychic setting as Frankie Lee and Judas Priest, you know what I mean? It's like this outdoor cafe at the end of the line, and it's just like the Iceman cometh or something like that. It's like guys just bullshitting and, you know, big talk.
Hold me back, hold me back.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's where that's at for me. You know, but I have to relate to the songs with levels of personal symbology, you know, because a lot of them they're not based on life events. Only Hunter has written a few songs that are like autobiographical for me. But more often than not, the songs that get to me emotionally are the ones in which I feel sympathy for a guy that I'm not but could be.
32 teeth in a jawbone. Alabama's trying for none. Before I have to hit him, I hope he's got the sense to run. The reason the poor girls love him, promise them everything. Why they all believe him, he wears a big diamond ring. Run, run, Alabama, get away, get away. Alabama, get away, get away. Only way to please me, just sit down and leave and walk away. Sat down and had a drink with me. Said, what about Alabama? It keeps coming back to me. I heard you plea in the courthouse. The witness box began to rock and rise. 49 sister states had Alabama in their eyes. Run, run, Alabama, get away, get away. Alabama, get away, get away. Only way to please me, you just sit down and leave and walk away. major domo. Reserve me a table for three. Down in the valley of the shadow, just you, Alabama, and me. Alabama, get away, get away. Alabama, get away, get away. Only way to please me, just turn around and leave and walk away. Alabama, get away, get away. Alabama, get away, get away. Only way to please me, just turn around and leave and walk away. Alabama, get away, get away. Alabama, get away, get away. Only way to please me, just turn around and leave and walk away. Alabama, get away, get away. Alabama, get away.
I can barely see you. You're blown out by the bright
sun.
Yeah, right.
Check maybe if I moved over here.
Yeah,
I
if
know
you
it's
can
hard
move
to-
over here, that'd be great.
Okay,
You
we'll
know,
see what we can do. Why don't you stop that a second?
it's weird. I'm talking to this blob.
Yeah, I know.
The conclusion of our interview, The Grateful Dead, in just a moment.
Them
And now the conclusion of our two-part special interview, The Grateful Dead, and we're going to begin with Jerry Garcia and the song Samson and Delilah.
Okay, what about it?
First song,
I mean,
well-
what do you want to hear about it? Where did we get it?
Well, God, Jerry, let me ask a question. You know,
Okay.
I'm getting to it.
I thought that was a question.
Okay,
Oh, never
where'd you get
mind.
it?
Where did we get it? Okay, actually, where we got it, let's see, that Samson and Delilah is really more or less swiped from Reverend Gary Davis's Samson and Delilah, which is kind of a definitive folk pickers Samson and Delilah. Weir was, as a guitar player, is influenced a lot by Reverend Gary Davis.
It's an old Negro spiritual of which I've been fond. And it seemed to me that people had quite forgotten the Reverend Gary Davis, so I thought I'd do the song anyway.
Are you getting religion bound this time in your life?
I wouldn't say that, but I do like gospel tunes because they're generally written with a bunch of conviction, and they lend themselves to that kind of delivery, and that's fun. And I really like the Reverend Gary Davis. He taught me a lot about the guitar in general.
One of the things about it is that it's like kind of like got all the best points of that good rock and roll has in a way, or any good music really. It has the thing of having real great grooves, and it has the thing of having real great vocal performances. And above and beyond that, it has this kind of thing, the spirit, you know, which is like what all music should have. And so gospel music is a real great model, really, you know, for good rock and roll.
Delilah was a woman, she was fine and fair. Ooh, she had good looks, God knows, and cold black hair. Delilah, she gained no sense of mind. When first he saw this woman, Lord, it took his mind. Delilah, she climbed up on old Samson's knee. Said, tell me where you're standing. If you please, and she spoke so kind, talk so fair. Samson said, Delilah, you cut off my hair. You can shave my hair, tease my hand. My strength become natural as any old man. If I had my way, if I had my way, if I had my way, I would tell this old bell down. You read about Samson, all from his wife. He was the strongest man that ever had lived on earth. One day while Samson was walking along, looked down on the ground, he saw an old jawbone. Well, he reached out his arm and got the chain broke like a thread. When he got the move, the 1,000 was dead. If I had my way, if I had my way, if I had my
One of the most intriguing aspects of the Grateful Dead's following is the famous dedication of Grateful Dead fans. It is a fact that some hardcore Deadheads who have been to countless Grateful Dead concerts have actually quit their jobs, packed up their belongings, and traveled to a Grateful Dead gig, sometimes even to other countries. But the best example of this loyalty has to be the Great Pyramid gig in Egypt. If this sounds a bit far-fetched at first, even for the most zealous Grateful Dead fan, imagine what it must have been like to witness the Grateful Dead playing under a full moon on a starry night at the base of the Great Pyramid.
Yeah, and the Egyptians themselves, they boogie around the Great Pyramid all night long, you know, till 4 or 5 in the morning. You know, they party up there.
Did you ever, either of you, did you ever get the feeling that this was some kind of a sign? You know, I mean, the only thing I could draw it off would be like the monolith in 2001, that somehow this thing was put here to point backward to...
I could definitely flash that it was a sign, because if you thought in terms of, suppose...
Not a sign, a device.
It has more of a flash that it's a device, that it's like a piece of ancient apparatus.
It put me.
You know what I mean? It's like standing near the ruins of Boulder Dam or something like that. You know, it has that kind of, you know what I mean? It has this big, forceful, useful sense to it.
It put me in, for a while, in a sort of a fourth dimensional realm. Everything that I saw and everything that I heard took on a new dimension, like I was saying earlier. And it had a timeless quality to it that lent to me an understanding of the nature of time in itself.
And it's odd, too, when you're inside it in the little passageways.
They're not built for humans.
They're not. The sizes are all wrong. Like there's one.
Not even little humans.
Passageway. It goes up at an angle like this, which is almost wrong for gravity. And it's not obviously a room that has no use for humans. You know, I mean, there's nothing you can look at. You can't imagine what would anybody build such a thing.
You can't have a party in there.
Yeah, it's like not quite a passageway because it has a little too much purpose. You know.
Any kind of critter that would be hanging out in there and using the place would have to have some sort of anti-gravity suit or anti-gravity shoes or something like that.
Right, it would be something unutterably weird. I can't imagine. And then when you get up to the King's Chamber, you go through this kind of an antechamber that's like stepping into a closet sort of thing, or a cloakroom or something. And then it goes around a corner, and then you have to get down small again and crawl through another opening. And that opening, it goes around little corners meaninglessly, sort of, you know. And then you find yourself in the King's Chamber. The King's Chamber is totally weird, because as soon as you try to say something in there, the echo builds up so immensely that it turns into garble. You know, like you can't complete a sentence because it just turns into garble. But you can sing.
Arabian wind, the needle's eye is there. The ships of state sail on, we rush and drown in sand.
The first night we were playing, the guys that live out on the desert, you know, the nomadic guys, you know, the Bedouins and those guys, they were out like past the mile limit. You know, they had their camels and their families and stuff, but they were out in the sand, out in the desert, away from the area. You know, second night, a little closer. By the third night, they were right around.
The camels were all parked and they were down in front.
And they were dancing and carrying on and loving it. You know, it was amazing, man.
It was wonderful
to see these old guys, old Egyptian guys, doing the dance of Allah under the stars. You know, to the Grateful Dead music in the middle of the night. Here's the way we're situated. We're facing that way. The Great Pyramid is to our left and that way, and the Sphinx is to our left and on the same level
and
we
right
are.
Behind us. Just
right,
a bit behind us.
And just a bit behind us. So from the audience point of view, they're seeing the Grateful Dead, the Sphinx, the Great Pyramid, Second Pyramid, and Third Pyramid. They're seeing the whole thing. And our lighting person had the control over their lighting of the great. They have this show they run at nighttime, a Great Pyramid light show, where they light up all three of the pyramids. And she had control of the lighting of the three pyramids and the Sphinx during our show. You know, so.
Oh my God.
From an audience's point of view, it couldn't have been more incredible. It was utterly cosmic, you know. It was postcard perfect. We couldn't have invented a better place to play.
Flying Saucer City.
Well, the time's forgotten space. You eyes looked in her mother's face. Wildflower seed in the sand stood. Made the four winds roll you safely home. Roll away the dew. Roll away the dew. Roll away the dew. Roll away the dew. God save the child who rings that bell. I have one glittering baby you can't tell. One watch by night, one watch by day. If you get confused, listen to the music play.
In closing tonight, I thought it might be interesting to hear Jerry Garcia's outlook on life in the 80s from a 15-year perspective of playing with the Grateful Dead.
The world's going way too slow for me. I mean, I was on this trip 15 years ago, you know what I mean? And I was waiting impatiently then for the world to do something about anything. And it hasn't done anything about anything in all this time, you know? I'm still waiting. I mean, and after a while, I mean, I've already gone through the thing of getting completely disinterested just because it's taking so long, you know? I've already gone through that cycle several times already. You know, so this is just like the current spin of that wheel as far as I'm concerned, you know? And people were hollering these same warnings, you know, 15 years ago, every bit as loud, you know, and it was just every bit as apparent then as it is now. And you know, yeah. I just, geez, you know, I mean, the suspense is killing me. You know, I hate to think we're going to have to wait till the millennia to find out the answer to all these provocative questions, you know.
Well, I think we'll stop there.
Great.
I'd just like to say
that's where we're stopped.
What the hell? This is it.
Yeah.
We're sitting here on a Sunday afternoon, beautiful Sunday afternoon in San Rafael.
Not bad.
And thank you for spending it with us, man. It's been real enjoyable.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Mon plaisir.
Okay.
Some come to laugh the past away. Some come to make just one more day. Whichever way your pleasure tends. If you play nice, you're gonna harvest wind. Roll away the dew. Roll away the dew. Roll away the dew. Roll away the dew. Tell you where the forwards stay, like falling out the lighthouse key. Wildflower seed in the sand and wind. May the four winds run you home again. Roll away the dew. Roll away the dew. Roll away.
Well, I hope you enjoyed meeting both Jerry Garcia and Bob Weir during our two-part special interview, The Grateful Dead. And I hope you join us next week, same time and same frequency for another interview. I'm Jim Ladd.